Hi everyone, Curtis here from Goth Rider Creations, and in today's episode I'm going to show you how to use rechargeable vape batteries for backlighting for a project. Stay tuned. So, as I've been away from YouTube for the last 6 months or so, I thought I'd ease myself back in and show you guys just a little project, some resin skulls that I made for some friends for Christmas. But I wanted to show you guys how to use rechargeable vape batteries for projects. It's something I've been working on for a little while, and there's quite a few people out there showing you how to make battery banks and e-bikes and whatever else out of the things, but I wanted to show you a much simpler way, a much more DIY option, especially for newbies to the projects, on how to actually make a rechargeable battery unit that you can then power various things. For this project I'll show you LED lighting, but the basics still stand. So stay with me and I will show you how we do that. For anyone that's interested in why I've been away for so long, please stay till the end. I'm not going to make everyone listen to me waffle on, but that will sort of explain what's been happening. So if you want to know what's been happening in my life, stay towards the end. If not, let me show you how I did it. So first we start with the rechargeable vape. This is a crystal vape. I don't generally use them because the recharge sections, the refills, are actually pretty crap. So for these are nice and simple. You just push the bottom tabs and then the plastic casing comes away to get thrown, and then you just need to remove the aluminium coloured tube thing. These can be a little bit stiff, but a good twist, hey, and off it comes. And that is the unit we'll be working with. Now, first off, you need to carefully cut the tape holding the battery to the casing. Unfortunately, you can't just test from the top pins exposed, because that's what actually powers the vape itself, and that only works under vacuum. So you will need to disconnect the battery, but do not cut any of the wires. And this is a fully charged vape, and as you can see, it's just over 4 volts, which is perfect. Now, if we remove the base of the charging port, you will see why we're not trying to hack into the circuit board of this thing, because it is fucking tiny. I'm not playing with that. So instead, we're going to manually hack into the battery. And as you can see here, there is quite a lot of wasted space. So if you've got a smaller project that actually requires the battery to be closer, you could literally cut the back of the casing and the bottom of the casing, and you could literally flip the battery on its side and make it a lot smaller. Pro tip. So now you need to assemble your soldering gear. And of course the brand new soldering station that you got on Black Friday. Merry Christmas, me. And now for the LEDs. Now, if you've not used raw LEDs before, the best tip is to look at the pins. The longest one is the positive and the shortest one is the negative. If you're not 100% sure, or if they've already been clipped, then look at the internals. The large part with the light is the negative side, and the thinner pin on the other side is the positive. Another way to check it is to use a little button battery, and you can test and make sure it's happy. Now, the best way to drop the voltage is to use a resistor to bring down the 4-ish volts down to the 2-ish volts for the LEDs. Unfortunately, I don't have any 1K resistors at the moment, and I was not going to wait for Bezos and his boys to deliver it. So I am going to put these LEDs in parallel, which literally means putting the positive of one LED to the negative of another and connecting them, and then both LEDs will share the voltage, and that will bring it down to the 2-ish volts that they need. If anything, it slightly underpowers the LED, but if anything, that's not a bad problem. Now, if you're old like me and your eyesight's starting to go and you're starting to get a little bit of tremor in your hands, these helping hand things are absolutely amazing. I would highly recommend them. Now, if you've never done soldering before, one, don't burn yourself, and two, it's not as complicated as people say. You literally need to touch the solder onto the soldering iron, then touch the soldering iron to the part, and then touch the solder to the part. It will heat up the leg and it will get a nice bead of solder. That's what's known as tinning. And make sure you clean your soldering iron. So once you've tinned the leg of the LED and the wire, you just bring the two together and then heat up both at the same time with the soldering iron, dab a little bit of extra solder if needed, and that gives you a perfect joint. Then rinse and repeat with the negative side, and then you should have some LEDs in parallel ready to go. And here's one I made earlier. Now we need to solder on the connections for the battery, and this is my major health and safety warning. Be very careful when soldering onto lithium-ion batteries. They do not react well to heat, they do not react well to overcharging, they do not react well to undercharging, they don't even react well to punches. Be very, very careful. Make sure you pre-tin all of the wires, make sure there is plenty of solder on the soldering iron, and try to touch the soldering iron onto the battery terminals as short as possible. I will not be held responsible for any Darwin Awards for anyone screwing this up. Now, once you've had your tinned wire, you very carefully and quickly touch it onto the battery terminal with the soldering iron to get a connection. Do not, like me, forget that the only thing holding the battery to the holder is now the wires, and as soon as you touch the soldering iron to it, the existing wiring falls off and so does the battery. Fucking idiot. Make sure that you've got it well held, secured, even tape it down if needs be to make sure it's not going to fly anywhere. And then go again and reconnect your wires. And there you have the positive and negative soldered on. And then use the existing pads that you took off at the beginning just to re-insulate the ends and make sure you don't get any short circuits. And be very careful not to touch those two wires together. I very nearly short-circuited it myself. Next, you need to take a bit of tape, doesn't really matter what, and then tape the battery back to the holder so it's secure and can't slide around anywhere. Next, we need a switch, and for this we're just using a small on-off-on 3-pin micro slide switch, which is pretty much all I had to hand, and those are actually pretty simple. The center pin goes to the battery positive wire, and then either of the other two outside pins can go through to the power wire for the LEDs. And once that's done, make sure you slide your heat shrink over any of the connections, which I kind of forgot to show you. make sure that you put it over the wires first before you solder. And there you have it, one rechargeable vape battery repurposed into an LED power supply. Now, because I'm putting this inside a resin skull, I also need to make a little enclosure for the switch because I won't have anywhere else to put it. So I am using my favourite strips of balsa wood and a little super glue just to make a little dam to hold the switch in place. Please be very careful with using super glue around these switches. Do not glue it in with super glue. I destroyed 3 switches just attempting it. And a couple of hours later, there's your enclosure. And the last job for this is to make sure you insulate it very well. I'm using electrical tape to hold all of the wires in place. I don't want anything getting knocked or coming loose. And then as a final bit of protection, we are going to douse this thing in hot glue. Now, I know it sounds a bit DIY, but to be fair, most electronics companies use hot glue to hold down minor components in electronics. And you want to go over every little area, making sure there is no exposed pins, no exposed wires. And in the case of the resin skulls, you need to really make sure that there are no gaps in the wooden area where the switch is. Trust me. Now we come to the fillings for the individual skulls. From my friend Sarah, we have some lovely little dry flowers. From my friend Mike, we have a combo of broken circuit boards and cogs. And for my godson Jack, I decided to go for a skull made of skulls. And finally for myself, I went for some carbon fibre. And of course, you need a mold. Now, I've previously done videos tutorialing how to make resin fretboards, and I will link this at the end if you've not seen it. But as a little bit of advice for newcomers to resin, always wear gloves. And wear 2 gloves. I've seen so many YouTubers putting on 1 glove going, oh, that'll be all right. And then something falls or something tips over and then they grab it with both hands and then they're f***ed. Don't be skimpy. Next, make sure you've got a decent set of electronic scales. Most of these resins have specific mix ratios. This one is 2:1. But you need to make sure you've got a decent set of scales. You don't want to be guesstimating this stuff. Also, read the instructions well. If it tells you that it needs to be poured in a certain temperature range, do not ignore it. I know far too many people that have tried pouring resin in the summer and it's absolutely destroyed it. Be careful. Have a safe place to do it, and make sure it's well ventilated. And then the final bit of advice is mix, and mix well. If it says mix it for 3 minutes, mix it for 4. It says mix it for 4 minutes, mix it for 5. Do not skimp on the mixing. It's tedious, it's boring, but any decent bit of resin work comes down to making sure it is thoroughly mixed. The last thing you want is to have a resin piece that never cures and is always gummy. Here I'm using a wide bristle artist brush, and I'm just going to paint the resin as a thin layer inside the mould so it will hold the carbon fibre. Carefully sprinkle small amounts of the carbon fibre into the mould and make sure it all sticks down well. But in this case, I'm trying to leave a few air pockets so the LED light can shine through. Rinse and repeat for all the surfaces, paying particular attention to the front of a skull mould because the eye sockets, the nose and the teeth are not the easiest things to get everything stuck cleanly to. Once that's done and hardened, then we need to mount the LEDs and the battery unit into the mould so that the charging port will be at the bottom of the skull. Best way I found to do this is to literally tape the battery unit onto something flat that you can then rest on top of the mould, making sure that it will be flush with the bottom and that it will be central. Once you're happy that it's secure, then just rest it inside the mould, making sure it's central. Once that's done, then you can start pouring your first layer of resin. And yes, I do mean your first layer of resin. We're not all John Malecki. We can't pour 6 inches of resin in one go and expect it to work. We don't have temperature controlled rooms and we're not spending 6 grand on resin. This is laminated resin, and as such you can only pour it to a maximum of 15 millimeters depth, about ½ an inch for my colonial friends, and you have to do it in multiple layers. If you pour it too thick, at best case scenario you'll get thermal blooming, where the resin will get all gloopy and thick and will discolor, will sometimes go quite cloudy. And worst case scenario, it will literally crack. Don't be impatient. Best thing to do is do multiple thin layers, about 10 to 15 mil thick, and then repeat every 6 hours. As long as the resin's slightly gummy, it will hold the next layer of resin without any sanding or any issues. For the other skulls, we did have a few issues. The flowers held quite well, very similar to the carbon fibre. Unfortunately, the circuit boards, the cogs and the skulls were far too heavy for the resin to hold on to. The resin's not all that viscous. So the only option I had was to lay down individual spots and then repeat the process. So here I am laying down the skulls and the circuit boards into the bottom of the mould. Then fixing the batteries and the lights, pouring a small amount of resin to hold those bits in place, and then the next day turning it to its side, then use the most manly pair of tweezers ever existing, and then pouring in tiny amounts of resin to secure it. Absolute ball ache. But once you've got everything secured and you've got enough layers of resin, then you can pour the final layer. This one you need to be very careful. You need to make sure that your workbench is level, and you need to make sure you only pour to the edge of the enclosure. If you overfill, you destroy the switch. if you do not seal well enough around the base with the hot glue, you destroy the switch. And spoiler alert, that's what happened to the other 3 skulls. Sorry guys. Once you're happy with your level, leave it for 6 hours and see how it looks. Don't forget to pop the bubbles. So 1 day later, and this is the final product. And ladies and gentlemen, the big reveal. And not forgetting the final results for Mike, Jack and Sarah. Love you guys. Merry Christmas. So there you have it. Something a little bit different from the usual guitar making stuff, but to be honest, I wanted to ease myself back into things after being away for so long. So for anyone that's interested, I do apologise first of all. Yeah, I was really planning to do a lot more this year, but after I did the whiskey barrel guitar, everything kind of went to hell. So a bit of backstory: the last 18 months or so I've had a lot of stomach problems, a lot of pain, a lot of stuff I will not describe, but I kind of figured it was a combination of IBS or food poisoning or various other little bits and pieces, and my wonderfully unhelpful GPs literally just said, oh, we don't think you have an infection, have blood tests, oh yeah, you have a serious infection, go to hospital, bye. And after the 3rd time of that happening, thank you NHS, I finally got a decent emergency room doctor, and I wish I knew the guy's name because I would love to thank him, but he took one look at me, looked at my records, rushed me straight into one of the cubicles, did an ultrasound scan himself, and discovered I had gallstones. And I don't mean a couple of gallstones. His description was it looked like a marble bag that some kid had been ramming solid. So it was causing a lot of problems, and to their credit, they rushed me straight into a ward. I was in there for 4 or 5 days waiting for surgery, and then at 2 minutes to 5 they came in and went, oh, so sorry sir, yeah, we're not going to be able to fit you in, go home, we'll phone you. And that, anyone in the UK knows, means we'll see you in a year. But surprisingly, and to their credit, all right, I did kind of harass them a little bit. They got me in 6 weeks later, straight in, first customer through the door, which is a weird thing to say for surgery. Gallbladder removed, done. Took 2 weeks to get back on my feet, took another 4 weeks before I could actually lift or do anything substantial, but all healed, all sorted, lovely. I do have a small issue with my pancreas that needs looking at later on, but it's nowhere near as serious. So yeah, a lot of my issues the last 18 months has literally been down to my gallbladder, and because of my spinal condition and other things, none of the symptoms kind of led to ooh, there's something seriously wrong. So the only thing I would say to anyone is, if you've got a niggling doubt about something, go and get it checked. It doesn't matter if it's a skin issue, a stomach issue, a foot issue, whatever. If it carries on for more than a few weeks and it's starting to get a bit annoying, just go and get it checked, because if I'd left it any longer, I could have ended up on a very serious situation. And again, it wasn't my proactiveness, it was pure luck of getting the right doctor in the right ER at the right time that saved me this aggro. So just, yeah, look after your health, people, because, you know, how the hell are you going to build stuff if you can't move, you know? So yeah, so that's kind of knocked me out for most of the year. And the other issue has pretty much just been this shed. I can't work in it anymore. It's way too small. I've got way too many tools now, way too many processes I want to use, and I can't just keep reaching under here to grab a pillar drill and then putting it away and then grabbing a router and then putting, it's not good enough. So I need the space, and I am working as hard as I can on getting the extension done. I'll put a picture here of the concrete work I've done for the base, so that's all done. I'm working on the floor at the moment. The roof is nearly ready to go. I'm working on the side panels. I'm using as much sort of recycled timber as I can, because you know me. So I'm hoping in the next few weeks, once, I mean, you can see the steam coming out of my face right now, it's freezing. Once the weather breaks a little bit and I get a spare weekend, I'm gonna try and just get this thing built in one day, get the insulation done, get the paneling done, get everything sorted out, and then I will have double the space. So this area at the moment will be all benched out, and then I can have individual organized tool spaces for everything that I need. Pillar drill in its own position, router table, have everything set up, and then in the furthest end I can actually have, similar to what I have here, a decent workbench, proper lighting, actual camera mounts. Try and get this a little bit more professional, because yeah, let's face it, come on. But yeah, it is taking time, and obviously this last year with my health, I've not been great at doing any kind of major works. So now I'm healthier, I should be able to kick this into high gear. So that's why I've done the little project today, just to sort of, you know, do something. I'm going to try and finish off a couple of little projects that I can do in the craft room, and then once this is set up and done, then my plan is to finish all of my builds. All of my builds. I am getting absolutely sick of having half-finished crap all over the house. Yeah, I'm sure you have too, Mick. Yeah, I need to get the player demos done now that I've got my mate Ollie who can do the sound demos, my mate at work. I can get all of these guitars finished, played, so you guys can see them all done. So that is the plan for the coming year. I've got some builds I want to get done. Not sure if I'm going to have time to do the Jurgs Cup this year. I will try, but yeah, I just need to get back into the flow of things. So once the extension's built, new workshop, new studio, then we can go from there. Now, one other thing I wanted to do is some thank yous for everyone. First off, a massive thank you to Daniel, Devil and Son Guitars. Absolutely amazing 3D printed radius block, 12-inch, absolutely amazing. He set up a new website, guitarbuildingtools.com. Yes, I did just have to look that up, sorry mate. He's selling 3D designs that you can print yourself of various jigs, router templates, sanding blocks, all kinds of stuff. And he jokingly put a post up on the Guitar Builders Collective saying if anyone wanted anything, and I said, oh well, you know, if you wouldn't mind printing me out a radius block, you know, I'll see what we can do. And he sent it to me for Christmas. So love you, man, thank you so much. I am working on the present I'm going to send to you. Obviously I'm late because this is New Year's, but I will send that to you soon. I'm working on some carbon fiber bits, so that will get in the post to you. I also wanted to thank a few people who've been supporting me this last year, even though I've not been very productive, and I'm going to get the list here because my memory is getting shit. Thank you so much to all the guys at the Guitar Builders Collective who've been sort of keeping me company this year. Corey, Owen, Rob, Barry, Ray, Glyn, Alan, there's so many of you, but you guys have been sort of commenting on everything and trying to sort of keep my spirits up, and I really do appreciate that. And obviously the never-ending support I get from Gio and Todd, Tornelli Guitars, Sweet D Guitars, and they make their bench critters, apologies. But yeah, I will be getting some of those gecko blocks ordered hopefully soon once this is all done, because I need some of those things. But I just want to thank everyone who's been supporting me, really. Everyone in the comments section, all the new subscribers I've had this year. It's been really awesome. Yeah, thank you all for participating, really. I know I've not had much to show for it this year, but I'm really hoping next year I can get into high gear, sort some of this shit out, and actually start making some content for you guys. I've got so many plans coming out my ears, it's not even funny. I've got so much I want to show you guys, so much I want to create, new ideas, stuff I don't think has even been done in guitar making or crafts or anything. So I'm really excited to get on it. I just literally need to sort this place out and get into it. So yeah, thank you all again for supporting me this year. I hope 2026 is good for you all. It can't be any worse than my 2025, so we'll see what happens. And yeah, I shall see you all on the next one. Take care.